Hi. So with this video, I'm hoping this will be the beginning of a series of videos that's just meant to explore the connection and the intersection between art and spirituality. I'm just going to bring up, a quote, an idea, a theme, and just toss it into the air and bat it around a little bit in the hopes of catalyzing some thoughts, different obstacles artists face, and metaphysics, or the question of what it means to be. So I'm going to just put out a few ideas for this first talk and see where that leads, and then we'll go from there. So there's this idea of mediumship. And to begin with, as a human being, we are mind within matter. We have bodies, and we act and think through those bodies. So when you're speaking of art, you're speaking of moving your mind through the primary medium of your body, through sometimes a secondary medium. In the case of visual arts, there will be a secondary medium. But in the case of something like singing or dance, your primary medium is the body itself. But you are using a medium to express. You have two polarities there, the internal, the metaphysical, and the physicality of matter. So there's a man who wrote a book, The Inner Guide Meditation, and he says something that I like. He says that to engage the imageal plane, the image-making faculty intentionally, to introduce your will to the process and bring it to being in the material, is a potent psychic act. So that's an idea that you find particularly Jungian psychoanalysis and ritual, which is that you can conjure up an image in your mind, but as such it remains a thought. It remains immaterial. It remains metaphysical. And so the act of bringing something into being, the creative act, is the act of drawing something down into the realm of the material, so that it then is no longer your own. It is no longer just an internal entity. It is now out in the world. Other beings encounter and interact with it. So another idea with this mediumship is that the art medium is relatively malleable. There's obviously a spectrum there. If you're talking about paint, that is arguably an inanimate medium, and so it will lend itself more or less to your will. And that will needs to be cultivated through a practice. You need to learn how to basically make a relationship with that thing, even if it is inanimate. The idea here is that you're drawing your voice through this medium. So this involves a relationship, making a relationship with this medium through practice. So I am working right now primarily with the medium of words, language, writing, and I'm working with mixed media, visual art, things like paint and collage materials. So when you work with these things, you're bringing your voice through a medium. So it's you. It's a reflection. It is a collaboration of you with your material, but it's you. Your physical interaction with this medium is bringing to birth an expression of yourself. When I first started on my exploration of art, I was very perplexed when I heard artists speak about the vulnerability involved, because I thought, I was dabbling in acting and dancing, and to me that was, if you're on stage, that's extremely vulnerable. But I didn't have yet an experience of the vulnerability that is involved with something like a visual art, where you might be working alone in a studio. However, what you're going to encounter, what's going to be reflected in your interactions with this medium, is your own mind. And therein lies the rub. And so in the years between that first kind of perplexed questioning. And now when I'm ensconced rather deeply in my own war is the word I would use. Sometimes I'm trying to like quiet that word down a little bit, but it's been a rough journey of encountering my mind, my own insecurities, my judgments, my disappointment that the image I have in my head is this perfect image, and then when I try to interact with the medium, it's so disappointing. It doesn't come out the way I want. It doesn't come out the way I intended. It takes too long. So in this series, we'll also delve into all of those questions of the hope and fear that arises in the mind and how to step back behind those so that you can actually begin to learn how to be a medium. What I mean is in this context is that there is something larger than your idea of yourself and what you're capable of. Some people call it the unconscious, some people call it God, some people call it your true self or your inner essence or whatever else. But the basic idea is that your capabilities and your actual true organic expression is often, especially at the beginning, usually far greater than you can even conceive, and often very at odds with the ideas that you would like to have for yourself, that I'm this, I'm that, I look like this, I do that. The true self is unbounded. Your potential is not constrained by these cultural ideas or personal ideas of what success is. So that's basically the first point of conflict that starts to happen, is when your ideas of who you are in the creative process crash into seeing what actually emerges from your nascent or your first early attempts, and it doesn't seem to go away, to be honest with you, at making expression in the world. So we'll stop there with those ideas. Please feel free to write questions below, thoughts, and we'll continue next week.